So I've been working on my authorization service, and it's totally sweet. It's only taken me 6 months to build it. Just 6 months. I started implementing some basic RBAC library, but that wasn't enough, obviously. So I designed relationship-based, fine-grained authorization for the highest security possible. And then, to make it super fast, I used a GPU tower, running in my mom's basement, of course, connected via optic cable to bare metal server at my local esports lounge, permissions, restrictions, and admin. Nailed it.
Wait. Whatever you did sounds cool, but there's also another option.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Permit.io. Permit is the full-stack authorization platform created so you never have to build permissions again. Build and manage permissions for any application with policy as code, APIs, developer-friendly SDKs, and user-facing UIs. Permit is an end-to-end authorization platform built on top of open-source policy engines. It's high-performing, gets decisions in less than 10 milliseconds, and uses a hybrid approach where config is in the cloud, but data and decisions are made locally. Not only is it intuitive, it lets you implement fully functional authorization in 5 minutes, not 6 months, and in the code base you prefer. Check out the link in the show notes or go to permit.io to learn more. That's permit.io. Sign up for Permit and stop rebuilding auth.
Companies, although on the surface look the same, kind of use the same tools, they all run a really different process based on their culture, based on their communication, based on the processes they have. So actually the MVP we had at Instacart did not work for other types of companies, which was surprising. And myself and Quentin, my CTO, we looked at each other and we said, did we just make the wrong decision here? As it turns out, we just needed something a little bit more generic that fit more use cases to begin with. So we started with thinking about how can we get this in the hands of users as quickly as possible. I'm JJ Tang. I'm the co-founder and CEO here at Rootly.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
Took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their
The
back.
company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve. I was proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really
It's
want it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how JJ Tang built beautiful, modern incident management centered around Slack and powered by AI. This episode is sponsored by Kiteworks. Legacy-managed file transfer tools lack proper security, putting sensitive data at risk. With Kiteworks MFT, companies can send automated or ad hoc files in a fully integrated, highly secure manner. The solution is FedRAMP Moderate authorized by the Department of Defense and has been so since 2017. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks. Visit kiteworks.com to get started. This episode is sponsored by ClearQuery. ClearQuery is the Analytics for Humans platform. With their full suite of features, you can go from data ingestion to automated insights seamlessly. With Ask ClearQuery, you can find valuable insights into your data using plain English. Don't miss the opportunity to simplify your data analytics with ClearQuery. Get started today at clearquery.io/codestory. JJ Tang grew up in mainland China, though eventually he came to the US for university and stayed. He found a job, started working, and eventually moved to Canada as the entrepreneur ecosystem was quite friendly. He has worked for companies like Instacart, IBM, and Cisco, gaining vast experience in a myriad of roles. But outside of tech, he is engaged to be married in 2025 and is big into road cycling. In addition to this, he has a dog named Nova, which his current venture centers their merch design around. At Instacart, JJ started to build a tool for infrastructure monitoring. When he realized that building it was cumbersome and nothing existed in the market, he decided to take one of the company's best SRE engineers and start a company, building this very product. This is the creation story of Rootly.
Rootly is a incident management and on-call platform, specifically for the most part focused on engineers. We help you manage and resolve critical incidents. So for example, if your website is having an outage, we're going to page you in the middle of the night. We'll help you get started on the incident, collaborate, jump in, work on it, ultimately put together your postmortem, your timeline, gather metrics around it, and keep that feedback loop going. So we are the critical platform that companies like LinkedIn and Figma and hundreds of others use to manage their incidents. I used to work at the grocery delivery company Instacart, and I'd fly all around middle America. I live in Toronto, but I fly all around America meeting grocery executives, and a large part of my conversation was explaining what was going on during these incidents that we would have. And when I looked internally, it turned out the incidents themselves weren't too bad. The part that was really painful was getting a really good consistent process around it, depending on the type of incident that was happening. So for example, like a shopper couldn't check out, or during COVID, everyone was trying to order toilet paper, so we had no availability for toilet paper. How would you fix those? And because we didn't have a great process, we were mostly just pinging each other on Slack and pinging the most senior engineer in the company and hoping for the best. I asked my now CTO, who was the first SRE, site reliability engineer at Instacart, I said, hey, we should start building product that kind of solves this. And so we started building Rootly actually internally as a tool at Instacart. And one of the senior executives asked me, he said, isn't it odd that we are building critical infrastructure tooling ourselves and we're a grocery delivery company? And I said, yeah, that is really odd. Let me go look for other tools that are out there and see if we can just bring something in, because it's very burdensome to build it yourself. And I did a quick search, and it turned out at the time there was nothing really out there that solved this problem. And so my report and debrief to him was, hey, I'm actually going to go start this company myself, and your best SRE, he's also going to come with me. And that's how the company started. So it was really out of our own necessity. Everyone has incidents, and they never go away, and they never really get better. You just get way better at managing it. And our goal is really, we want not only be the go-to way on how companies manage and resolve these incidents, but we also want to help you improve that process ultimately and turn these incidents into unplanned learning opportunities for your company.
Let's dive into the MVP. Tell me about that first version of the product you built. Maybe this is within Instacart, or maybe it's after. I'll let you decide. Or maybe it's a little bit of both. But tell me about that MVP. How long it took you to build, and what sort of tools were you using to bring it to life?
The solution we had originally started was too specific for Instacart. Companies, although on the surface look the same, kind of use the same tools, they all run a really different process based on their culture, based on their communication, based on the processes they have. So actually the MVP we had at Instacart did not work for other types of companies, which was surprising. And myself and Quentin, my CTO, we looked at each other and we said, did we just make the wrong decision here? As it turns out, we just needed something a little bit more generic that fit more use cases to begin with. So we started with thinking about how can we get this in the hands of users as quickly as possible? How can we drive a wedge into a company's existing processes and stacks? And the easiest way for us that we identified was, hey, we're not going to just go out and try to replace PagerDuty from the beginning. Let's go capitalize on areas that they have gaps, which is collaboration. And so we said our MVP is strictly just going to be this very simple bot that we built on Slack. It was really easy to understand. Companies could visualize very quickly that I already collaborate on incidents on Slack today. I already pinged Noah and James and Rebecca and JJ in these incidents. So having a layer on top of it was actually really digestible. So from a marketing and positioning perspective, it was really easy. And the contrast to that was we started testing some of our positioning. We marketed ourselves as this all-in-one incident management platform. And we would talk to companies that were much bigger. So some of our customers are now like NVIDIA and Cisco and Elastic, for example. And when we went originally to these companies and we said, hey, we're this like all-in-one incident management platform. We do A, B, C, and D, and all the way to Z. although it would have been useful, the psychology of the buyer and the people that we were selling to actually got really intimidated. They said, whoa, this sounds cool, but maybe it's a little bit much for me. And in our mind, we originally thought, wait, how can it be too much for you? Like, you're an enterprise, you need this kind of stuff. So as it turns out, focusing on the MVP really helped us figure out our positioning and what that wedge into these company stacks were. And so when we started with Slack, it really helped us grow the company and the adoption because it was so easy to understand and use.
Okay, interesting, things that come up with an MVP, right? When you're building an MVP, you got to make certain decisions and trade-offs. And you're kind of touching on some at a high level. Maybe dive into the main one or two or something like that around, decisions you had to make. Could be technical debt, could be approach. You mentioned, the bot approach. And I'm curious about making those decisions and how you coped with them.
I was always a product guy at Instacart and IBM before. When people come to you with feature requests, your default answer is no. Let me assess it. I'll put it on the roadmap. But when you're starting a company and you don't really have your first 50 customers yet, and you're just trying to see if this is something people will use and buy, your default answer actually starts turning into yes. So a lot of the decisions that we made early on was building towards custom things that customers like Grammarly wanted and customers like Canva wanted. So that was the interesting bit. And as your company grows and matures, you start having a lot more discipline. You have a way more say into your own roadmap and direction and influence, which is a lot more exciting. So some of the decisions and trade-offs was usually this balance between speed and everything else. And speed was the most important thing. Shipping very quickly became a superpower. In the early days, our platform, to be quite candid, was quite buggy. And one of the smart things that we did was we knew the platform, customers were going to find little issues that were wrong with it. Maybe a dropdown didn't load fast enough, things like that. So we said, we need to really tighten the feedback loop with these customers. We can't have them sitting for days over email support, finding these issues. And so what we did was we said for every customer, we have to have a shared Slack channel with them. And it allowed us to ping us any hour of the day with any issue. And what we do when we saw something was we went in there and we often fixed it within the hour. That blew our customers' minds away. And it really was an awesome tool for growth because they would find things and you fix it so quickly and they would start forming this deepened partnership with you. And that's something that I thought would never scale too well. And even to this day, with hundreds of customers, we have hundreds of Slack channels. And the platform obviously is way different than it was before. But by having a tighter feedback loop, it made the speed trade-offs that we had to make to get things out there much easier.
This episode is sponsored by Kiteworks. Legacy managed file transfer tools are dated and lack the security that today's remote workforce demands. Companies that continue relying on outdated technology put their sensitive data at risk. And that's where Kiteworks comes in. Kiteworks MFT is absolutely the most secure MFT on the market today. It has been FedRAMP moderate authorized by the Department of Defense since 2017. Through FedRAMP, Kiteworks' level of security compliance provides a fast route to CMMC compliance, saving customers time, effort, and money. Kiteworks MFT makes it easy for users to send automated or ad hoc files via fully integrated shared folders and email. Administrators can manage policies in a unified console and create custom integrations using their API. Did we mention it's secure? The level of security with Kiteworks solution is rare to find. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks. Visit kiteworks.com to get started. That's KITEWORKS.com. This episode is sponsored by CacheFly. The web is a competitive place, and if your site delivers its content pixelated, slow, or not at all, well, then you lose. But that's where CacheFly comes in. CacheFly delivers rich media content up to 159% faster than other major CDNs. Through ultra-low latency streaming, lightning-fast gaming, and optimized mobile content, the company offers a variety of benefits. For over 20 years, CacheFly has held a track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery. While competitors call themselves fast or use cute animal names, Only CashFly holds the record of being the fastest and serves customers like Adobe, the NFL, or Roblox, where content is created by users and must be delivered in real time. For the first time ever, Code Story listeners can get a 5 terabyte CDN for free. Yep, you heard that right, free. Learn more at cashfly.com/codestory. That's CACHEFLY.com/codestory. So you've got the MVP, you've flipped things to be an advantage for you, you're getting some traction. How did you progress the product and mature it from that point? And I think what I'm asking about there, kind of wrap that in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is how you built your roadmap, how you went about deciding, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Rootly.
So we have our roadmap, but we also have this really interesting other model that is, we have a team called the Goodness Team. And this is a collection of engineers that strictly do things that break the model of normal planning. Normal planning would say the small feature would need to come in Q3, Q4. But the Goodness Team looks at it and says, hey, this is low value, but also really low effort. And we can win some brownie points by doing this, or this is a really nice polish to our craft. And they'll just go ahead and smash it, and they'll get it out there. And it's something that would never have fallen into the normal planning cycle and got prioritized. And this allows us to keep a lot of the high velocity magic and that wows customers and wows the market and wows us. When we talked about the MVP, our focus was, hey, we need to build a wedge into these existing companies. Phase 2 from the MVP, I think about is, how do I now deepen the moat within these companies? How do I grow horizontally? So for example, for us, we launched a stellar, enterprise-ready, super exciting offering around writing your retrospectives that help you drive more accountability and help you build it way faster and way more consistently. That was something we wouldn't have thought about maybe a year or two ago, but we noticed that was a really interesting way to keep customers keep returning to our platform even when they weren't actively in an incident, because they also used our platform for learning. So phase 2 of, maybe I'll call it the master plan, is we need to deepen our moat and grow horizontally. And phase 3, what we're working on right now, and also phase 4, phase 3 is, how do we own the reactive reliability loop that I like to call it? And in this reactive reliability loop, there's a bunch of tools. There's monitoring tools, there's paging tools, there's collaboration tools, there's data tools, there's communication tools. And we started off by owning different segments of this. And now as we grow more horizontally, I think about, how do I now own this entire tool chain? Because as you look at the market today, companies are racing to consolidate vendors. When you consolidate these tools together, they start working a lot better. There's no broken telephone that's occurring from one tool talking to another. So we think about building the platform effectively for incident management and for reliability in general. And the fourth phase of this is, okay, we have this reactive reliability loop where companies rely on us when things go wrong, but how do we shorten that loop? Because ultimately shortening the loop is your defensible advantage as a product. Otherwise, everyone can just copy feature for feature. And so we think about shortening the loop through things such as intelligence. So we layered a ton of generative AI in a very thoughtful way on our platform, whether it's through response or through the learning side of incidents as well. For example, we help you detect when there's a related incident and how did people diagnose and resolve it previously. We'll give you the step-by-step guidance. So you're moving a lot faster there. And also, as you build reports, you can use plain natural language to ask our product to say, hey, I need a chart that kind of shows me the top incidents for this particular payment service over the last 3 months. Or you could ask it things like, what were the common questions that people asked during this incident? And that might indicate to you that, hey, this is something that we need to, proactively address and educate our users on. So we think about intelligence as the fourth phase of how do we shorten the reactive reliability loop? So we think about every feature, how does it play into these pillars, and how do we continue moving further down the pipeline, especially now that we built a large part of the platform. We built a large part of driving the wedge and the moat and things like that.
Okay, I hear you saying we. I'm curious about how you built your team. You know, I heard the story about you took the SRE from Instacart and you started the company, but you know, how do you go about building your team? And what do you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you?
I probably talk about this forever, but a few things that really stood out to me that I don't see a lot of people talking about. Maybe a lot of people disagree with this mentality, but it's something that has worked really well for us. The first thing is, I think all managers, when we build our team, so we have a leadership staff, I think all managers must be really good operators. And what that means is our engineering leaders do our take-home coding exercise. They need to be able to write phenomenal code, even if they're not going to do it every day, because they need to be able to empathize with what the engineers are doing. Our business development team, our leader on that team, also has to be very confident on cold calls. How can you coach someone to cold call more and better, or write better emails if you yourself can't do it? Before this realization, we made the mistake of, hey, people have great resumes, they have great track records, they interview really well. And the reality is, when they're not great operators themselves, they will take playbooks that they've learned at other companies and try to copy and paste it over to your company. And oftentimes, that is the wrong answer. So for example, imagine you and I, we're the same stage company, we're the same size, and we have the same investors, but we're building different products. The hiring plan our investors give you will most likely not be applicable to me. So why should any other process that people build ultimately work here? In a similar vein, people that are excited, especially the ones that are joining you early, that are building the playbook with you, that we most likely do not have the answers. We most likely will not find all the answers ourselves, and that is certainly true. But people that are excited to define how it will look like for the next 50, 100, 200 people are the people that are genuinely in it to win it. And those two types of mindsets are really helpful. And so we've done a really good job here of promoting internally people that are operators, because we can teach them leadership skills, but we can't motivate and teach someone that they should be in the weeds and know how the business works. And because of that, the decisions that we make are much clearer and much faster and much more accurate now.
This episode is sponsored by CashFly. The web is a competitive place, and if your site delivers its content pixelated, slow, or not at all, well, then you lose. But that's where CashFly comes in. CashFly delivers rich media content up to 159% faster than other major CDNs. Through ultra-low latency streaming, lightning-fast gaming, and optimized mobile content, the company offers a variety of benefits. For over 20 years, CashFly has held a track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery. While competitors call themselves fast or use cute animal names, only CashFly holds the record of being the fastest and serves customers like Adobe, the NFL, or Roblox, where content is created by users and must be delivered in real time. For the first time ever, Code Story listeners can get a 5 terabyte CDN for free. Yep, you heard that right, free. Learn more at cashfly.com/codestory. That's CACHEFLY.com/codestory. Hello, welcome to the Data Analytics Club. Do you know the password? No, didn't know there was one. Do you know how to code? No. Do you know how to query data? Like, ask a question? I guess not. I see. Then you can't be in this club. Sorry. Goodbye. Don't be left out of the Analytics Club. ClearQuery is the Analytics for Humans platform. With their full suite of features, you can go from data ingestion to automated insights seamlessly. ClearQuery provides you with the information you need without requiring you to do the heavy lifting. Their Ask ClearQuery feature allows you to ask questions in plain English, helping you find relationships and connections in your data that may have previously gone unnoticed. You can even visualize your data with presentation mode, taking your data storytelling to the next level. Pricing is based on storage, not licenses, and that ensures that you get the most bang for your buck. Don't miss the opportunity to simplify data analytics, your data analytics, with ClearQuery. Get started today at clearquery.io/codestory. Let's move on to scalability then. And this will be interesting, given what you're building and who you're building for. So did you build this to scale efficiently from day one, from that early MVP, or with scale in mind, maybe abstractions, things like that? Or are there interesting areas where you've had to fight it as you've grown?
I would say if I took the product we had and tried to give it to customers today, it would almost certainly fail. And so I can't say it was designed to scale from day one. But if scale was something that we layered on, and a lot of the catalyst and motivation for scale was as we started working with bigger enterprises. We started working with more mid-sized companies to begin with, Patreon or Squarespace, for example. And then as we quickly grown into the very large enterprises, we realized that, hey, everything you think about has to grow with you. For example, we have a workflows product, and the workflows are extremely powerful. You can do a lot of amazing things in it. It works really well across many teams, but does it work well for 10,000 users, 20,000 users? And it's really interesting because as we build products now, we always try to apply that kind of thinking. As we scaled and as we help organizations scale, we think a lot about how do we actually bake that into the product and features itself. So one example of that is when we deployed Rootly to a company with, let's say, 100 users or 200 users, it's actually quite easy. People often will make a quick video, write a quick doc, send an email, talk about it very quickly at their all hands, and people use it. But when you roll out to 15,000 users, the team that is actually buying your tool and responsible for the adoption of it, they can't really go talk to 15,000 users. So how does the tool now, from a scalable way, aid them to do their tasks in a scalable way? So for example, we built in the concept of interactive tutorials that you can customize with your own docs. And so the people that are buying our tool can actually see, are people trained on the tool, or are they just logging in and never doing anything again? And then obviously from an infrastructure perspective, the biggest thing that we've done from a scale perspective is at the beginning of last year, we said going to multi-cloud would be totally overkill. And as we thought more about our next product, our biggest demand was, hey, we really dislike using legacy paging tools. We want Rootly to build it. And as we started building it, the feature set was awesome and very differentiated and exciting and capitalized and all these things. But when we really thought about it, reliability was going to be the number one feature that we sold. We had to make sure reliability scaled better than anything else on the market. And so we made this enormous infrastructure decision to actually go from running on just AWS, but also running on GCP as well. The multi-cloud setup has allowed us to have just absurd amounts of redundancy and also talk about reliability in a very scalable way. And that has done wonders for us, I would say.
Okay, JJ, as you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built, what are you most proud of?
So often what you hear on a day-to-day basis and what you immerse yourself in a day-to-day basis is you're focusing on the things that are broken. And the times that I really get a chance to step back and look at and think about something like this question is, I think about this during our all hands. We're there to celebrate the wins. The thing that I'm by far the most proud of anything other than deploying to all these amazing companies around the world that when I was a student, I dreamed of working at, is the part that brings me the most joy is seeing people grow their careers in a company that I built from nothing. Seeing them get promoted, make more money than they ever could have at AWS or Google, that brings so much joy to me, and it motivates me like nothing else. Seeing people be able to genuinely provide for their families and have the best career that they've ever had in their lives and genuinely love coming to work and seeing their careers flourish, I think no matter what the outcome for the company, luckily it's up into the right now, I would look back still and probably think that is the most proud moment of my career.
Okay, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
I think the mistake that we made as a company was we underinvested in marketing. Not to say our marketing's not good. It's just a lot of it, in my opinion, could be much better. Because of the nature of the product, it's very collaborative when you work on incidents. So it naturally grew very viral. And when people left their organization and went to a new company, they would buy it again. Someone has bought our product 4 times because they changed jobs 4 times, and every time it was one quick 15-minute, 30-minute call, which was awesome. And I think that flywheel is still spinning really fast and doing wonders for us. But I think there's a lot of surface area that we put off and we didn't cover. I would say from a marketing perspective, I wish we would have invested and just to get the word out more about all the great things that we're doing and the customer stories and all of that. But otherwise, from a pure product perspective, I think we roughly made the right bets at the same time. Sometimes there's quite a few minor things. You build a feature and you're like, oh, that was actually really incorrect. And we roll it back. And we'll do that multiple times a quarter because we rather default to building the features, seeing how it performs in the wild, than sitting through a PRD and going through an approval process and a ton of research. Sometimes it's just too overkill. We'll build something, it doesn't work, we'll roll it back. We prefer to move quicker, but also very safe.
This will be super fun. What does the future look like for the product and for your team?
We're building this platform of owning this entire tool chain for the reactive reliability loop. And we're just getting started here. We're owning parts of collaboration and data and learning. And now we're owning bits and pieces or parts such as on-call and paging. And I see that growing further up the stack and also further down the stack, like learning even more from incidents, detecting trends and patterns and how you can evolve your process. So the company itself will become more multi-product than ever before as we see growth across all of these different areas. But the part that I'm most excited about right now is our on-call business. This is the critical phone call you get in the middle of the night to tell you that something is wrong. That phone call that must always work no matter if AWS is up or down. And that is really exciting for us because we get further ingrained into a company's process and infrastructure and stack. And we get to solve one of the most jarring and painful problems that every engineer faces. They go to a company they dreamed of working at, and let's say a ride-sharing company, and they get to work on these really cool projects. But you know what? You still got to carry your laptop with you once every 6 weeks. And that kind of sucks. And we want to make that process way better, way more enjoyable. And we want you to almost not hate when you get paged. And so that part of the product is really exciting. And also right now is the fastest growing part of our product, and also one of the newest, which I can't wait to see what the potential looks like even further down this year.
Well, JJ, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
One of the leaders that I look up to most is probably Brian Chesky at Airbnb. I think he's a phenomenal peacetime leader, and he's also probably one of the best wartime leaders. Airbnb during COVID almost overnight lost 80% of their revenue. And they have all these liabilities that they paid. They still had to pay the hosts. And they had to find a way to extend their runway. And Brian Chesky did a phenomenal job. And I think his leadership principles really resonate to me. He's a leader that's very excited about being in the details. If you listen to Brian Chesky, he thinks managers almost in a way, not in a micromanaging way, but you should know what's going on. And the reason for that is you cannot make great decisions unless you're into the weeds. And this kind of goes back to our principle, that earlier question you asked, like, how do we build a team? We build a team of operators and we grow them into leaders, but we never just hire a leader that cannot be an operator. And the reason for that is a lot of what I've learned from Brian, and luckily we went through some of our investors like Google, but also namely Y Combinator, where you get a chance to collaborate with him on growing the team and how that gets done. And I think because of his influence and a lot of that mentality, we get to move a lot quicker and we get to be a lot more accurate in our decisions. And it's almost counterintuitive. Sometimes being in the details, you think, especially at the beginning, you have a lot more work on your plate and you feel like you go slower. But the dividends start paying off a month, 2 months later, when you realize that we are making a lot less mistakes now. So with every group function, every single morning, I have a stand-up with everyone. Not with every individual, of course, but with every group function. And I know the decisions that we're making, and I'll be able to break down silos, and other leaders on our team break down silos where, hey, there's actually a misalignment. We're going for the launch of this product, but engineering thinks it's a beta. That's a misalignment because we're about to tell customers something that is inaccurate from what engineering believes. And so those are the things that we're able to catch super early on. But we have stand-ups every single day with every single function. And I know for sometimes when people hear that in the interview, they're like, oh my gosh, that is not a company I want to work at. And that's totally fine.
Okay, last question, JJ. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
One of our seed investors, really early into the company, he told me execution cures everything. And that is so true. When you're faced with a really tough problem, just sit down and think about how you can execute. And so for us, it was in the very early days, we talked about the product being too specific for Instacart. We weren't sure it was the product, it was the market, the product market fit. Maybe I was really bad at sales. It was probably a combination of all four of those, but we just put our heads down and we said, hey, we're going to try to keep selling this nonstop, and we're not going to stop, because that level of execution is what's going to get us closer to success. And so I think about that all the time. When we're dealing with something really hard and really ambiguous, I don't think that there's some magic answer. Oftentimes I think there's a magic hire that would help solve this. No, the thing that's going to solve it is execution. You're not going to land, it's very unlikely you're going to land upon some secret sauce that's going to get you there. And the other thing I learned, if this young entrepreneur is not tired of listening to me on the plane, I think one of the best things I heard, another one of our investors, he was the VP of infrastructure at Dropbox and a really dear friend of mine. He told me, I manage a team of 300-400 people, and you have to expect every day someone is having a really bad day. And as a leader, you need to think about how you would deal with that and how you will empathize and get them through it. And that could not be more true. Every week, someone's having a bad day, having a bad week. And you just have to know that is part of the job. Part of the job is building the team. Do not underestimate how important that is. As much as you love coding and getting into the weeds of the product, the team is ultimately your biggest asset. And it's something that you continuously need to invest in time and time again, over and over.
Well, I think that's fantastic advice. Well, JJ, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story of Rootly.
Thank you so much for having me.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.